Welcome, everyone. My name is Amy Silvestri, and I will be the host today. We are excited to kick off our XCM Expert Speaker Series with quick tips for using XCM. During this session, Michelle Ake and Michelle Beamer-Verasso will discuss features available in XCM. They will highlight newly released features and standard features that will provide you access to information faster. The webinar will then open up for Q&A. Before I hand it over to our speakers, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this webinar. XCM Solutions is registered with NASBA as a sponsor of continuing professional education on the National Registry of CPE Sponsors. As such, we are excited to offer 1 CPE credit for today's webinar. A total of 3 polls will be conducted throughout the presentation, and you will need to participate in all 3 polls in order to receive CPE credit. Your CPE certificate will be sent to you to the email you registered for this session within 72 hours after the session ends. If you do not receive your certificate within those 72 hours, please email us at xcmclientservices@xcmsolutions.com. Also, please note CPE is not available when viewing the on-demand version of this webinar. If you experience difficulty answering the polling questions today, please type your responses in the questions pane of the control panel, and we will ensure you receive credit for those questions. You will also have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the question pane of the control panel. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up afterwards. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Michelle Ake and Michelle Beamer-Verasso.
Thanks, Amy, for kicking this off for us. We're really excited to start this new series for XCMeducate and be your first set of presenters. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about the quick tips and enhancements that have happened over the last year or so. If you've attended our XCM user conference, this is similar to our quick tip session we do there. If you haven't experienced that, or you really enjoy this session, it kind of shows you what you can look forward to at our XCM user conference. So please consider joining us in the future. So we're going to first talk about pop-up notifications, and then quick tips and enhancements for the My View and Search, the control sheet, the utility section, reports. Then we're going to jump in and show you kind of a culmination in the live site, and then we'll get to questions. So I'm going to pass it on over to Michelle to get us started.
Thanks, Michelle. So first we're going to talk about our pop-up notifications. The pop-up notifications are going to notify you of any new enhancements when you log into XCM. You will have 3 options that you can select. The first one is Show Me Later. When selecting Show Me Later, the pop-up is going to appear the next time you log in. So the next time you log into XCM, you will see this message again. If you select Got It, it is not going to appear the next time you log in, but it will appear when there is a new message that is available. You also have the option to click Learn More. In selecting that, it's going to bring you to our Help Center. You also have the option of clicking on the hyperlinks for each individual item that is displayed on the pop-up, and that is going to bring you to the release note for that specific item. So I know many of you have been seeing this pop up throughout the last couple of months due to the new due dates due to COVID, but it's really a nice feature that's available when we have new enhancements with XCM. So hopefully going forward, that's what we'll be seeing more of. So next, I want to launch a polling question. As Amy mentioned, we have 3 polling questions, and I'm going to launch the first question here. So if everybody could please take a moment and answer that polling question, and then we'll see how everybody thinks about having different views on your XCM when you log in. Okay, just going to leave this open for another few seconds for folks to answer. Great. Thanks, everybody, for answering the polling question. It looks like we have a variety of different responses here. It looks like My Tasks is one of the more popular views that everybody likes to see. So let's take a look at how you can look at these and change your views on your My View page. So under the Manage User Utility, this is where you have the opportunity to change the setup of your login for XCM. Okay, so this is set up under the Manage User Utility and more specifically under the Preference section. You do need to have a user right to set this up. So if you do not have the user right to go into this utility, you can reach out to your web admin who can assist you with that. And also you can always reach out to support@xcmsolutions.com and we will be sure to help you with that as well. So what you're going to see here is on the first image under user preferences, it's going to allow you to set up your My View in different ways. The first one here, which is the default My View view, this is where your My View, where you set up your My View when you're logged into XCM. So as you're going to notice here, we have e-file selected. If you look at the image down below of your My View, the first item selected is e-file. So for those of you that selected My Tasks, if you wanted that to be your first item displayed here, you can go ahead and select My Tasks in this field. I know some of them had admin tasks, I believe. If you wanted your admin task here to be displayed as the first item, you can select admin tasks under your My View view. Going over to the right is the pinned view for My View. This is where you can set the views that you frequently use, okay? The views that you select here are what you are going to see along the top here, okay? So what's pinned from My View is visible on your My View along the top. Next, you have a default category that you can set. The default category is going to allow you to select the category that you would like to see. Okay, as an example of this is if your firm is set to use all categories, but you only deal with the tax category, by setting this default, whenever you search, you will only see the tasks in the tax category. Okay, if you do have something assigned to you outside of the tax category, it is still going to be assigned to you. You will still see those tasks. This is really helpful if you're doing, it's available in searching in different reports. You have the flexibility of selecting a default category here. Next, we're going to speak about the unassigned statuses. We have two new unassigned statuses that are now available in all categories. They are the unassigned review and the unassigned awaiting tax review. These become very useful when you're dealing with multiple groups. It just makes it easier for you to sort out the different tasks in their different groups. Then we have the Manage Routing Sheet. This allows you to customize sections of the routing sheet, or maybe you refer to it as the control sheet, that's relevant to your work. Okay, this is done under the Manage Routing Sheet utility, and it's going to give you the opportunity to manage your routing sheet / control sheet the way it works best for you. So if we come up to this image here and you see category, we have tax selected. If you come down to the available sections, here are the sections that you have the capability of hiding if there are sections that you do not use as a company. Okay, this is a firm-wide setting. So for example, if your company does not use custom fields, you can simply uncheck custom fields here and it will not be visible in your routing sheet. Okay, you will notice that there's some items that are grayed out. These are defaults that you must keep. You do not have the capability of hiding those fields. Going over to the column to the right where you have your selected section, you're going to notice some of these, like custom fields is selected. If you decided that you were just messing around with this and you wanted to see how it worked and you put custom fields over here, to remove it, you simply just click your X here and then that will disappear. Okay. Going back up to the categories here, you can select whatever category you would like your routing sheet to look like. If you want it to be just for tax, you can select tax, or you can use the drop down and select a different category. Coming over to the right here, you'll see the restore default, save, and save to all categories. If again you were in here and you were just trying this out to see how it works and you wanted to restore it back to your default, simply click Restore Default button. If you want to save your changes just specific to the category that you selected here, then you're going to click Save. If you would like to save these changes to all of your categories, you then can click Save to All Categories. Okay. You do need to log out and log back into XCM for these changes to save. Here's just a quick screenshot to show you what it would look like. On the image here, we have tax selected, and under the routing sheet, you're going to see all options are selected. If I go over to the financial, here you're going to see we've selected only the items that we feel fit for financial that we're going to use. Bookkeeping and accounting, again, these are the only fields I'd like to see visible on my routing sheet. I'm not using the other fields. And other, the same. So it's just a way for you to manage your work a little bit easier to make everything flow for you. And remember that this is a firm-wide setting. Next, we have the hidden items and action buttons. Sections that are hidden in the routing sheet / control sheet are visible in your My View and searches. However, these columns are blank. So if you look at the image below, you're going to see the points and sign-off section are blank. And we're under the bookkeeping category. The reason why these are blank is because I have them hidden on my routing sheet. Okay. Below that, you're going to see there's points and sign-offs that are showing for our other categories: financial, other, and tax. The reason being is I only have the points and sign-offs hidden for bookkeeping. They are still visible for my other categories. So again, it's just making it a little bit more easier for you to view all your information and to manage it and to make it easier for you. Also, the action buttons are hidden for those items. So if I look under task info here, you're going to notice that the points and sign-offs are not visible. So again, anything that's hidden on the routing sheet / control sheet is hidden under your action buttons under task info, and your sections are going to be hidden on your My View and search results pages. Next, we have a bulk move. We have two new columns that are now visible when moving tasks. One is the client entity number, and the other is description. So when you're moving tasks, you're going to find that the number and description are now visible. Again, this is just here to make it easier for you when you're working with your tasks in bulk, so you can see exactly what you are looking at. We also have added action buttons to our Open Checklist tab. This is going to allow you to manage checklists in bulk. As you can see in these images, you have the capability of creating emails in bulk, but only for a single client. So you'll notice here that we have Robert Maynard checked off as the first one and the third one. Okay, so you can come up and click create email, and it's going to allow you to email Robert Maynard for both of these tasks. If we had Amy Silvestri selected as well, that is not going to allow you to do that, as they need to be the same client, because for obvious reasons, everybody has a different email address. You also have the capability of assigning or unassigning checklists in bulk. But for this, you can select multiple clients. So again, in the screenshot, you'll see Robert Maynard is selected, and then you'll see Amy Silvestri. You can come up and click bulk edit, and then you can assign or unassign these checklists from here. Again, it's just another efficient way to be managing your checklist a little quicker with less clicks and getting more done in less time. We also have task shipping instructions that you have the capability of managing. You can add to the existing instructions, or you can append the instructions. If we look at the images here, the first image, you're going to notice that the toggle button, the replace toggle button, is turned off. When it is turned off, it is going to allow you to append existing instructions. So if you look in the middle of the page here, special instructions, by having that toggle button off, you're just appending these instructions. Okay? If you would like to replace the instructions, then if we look into the next image and look at the replace button, we have that turned on. When the toggle is switched on, it's going to replace the existing instructions. Okay? We do recommend that if you're working with a single task, that you leave the replace toggle on. That way, it's going to allow you to edit the existing instructions and to save them without creating duplicates. But you do have the option to do both. And you will notice in red that you are going to get the pop-up message just giving you an indicator of exactly what you're going to be doing. Okay. So with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Michelle.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. I think we should have called this series the XCM Educates Michelle series, because Michelle and I are tag teaming it here today. So the next section I want to talk about is things that have changed or things that have improved to make the control sheet a little more helpful. Before I do that, I do want to post our second polling question. Remember, if you're looking for CPE, we want you to be able to get that by answering these polling questions. If you could take a minute and do that. Just going to give it another second or two. We're still getting some responses here. Great. Okay, looks like we've got everything there. It don't look like I'm having the button to be able to share the polling results with you, but what I will tell you is 35% of people said 5, 33 said 15, 19 said 25, and 14 people actually said what are custom fields. So I think this will be very helpful for all of you. So let's move on. So custom fields have been available in XCM for quite a while. And what they do is they allow you to create fields on the control sheet to gather data that maybe XCM isn't doing for you with their default fields. So if you're a firm that has very specific things that you like to track, maybe you like to track your clients' birthdays or anniversaries or their billing months or anything that you want to track, you're allowed to track in XCM. In the past, we had less custom fields available. We now have 25 custom fields available. The original setup of the custom fields allowed for data to be either a free text or a date field. Now the enhancement that we've made, besides adding additional custom fields options, is the enhancement to add what we're calling single select. And what that allows for is for you to create a custom field. Once you choose single select, you get a little icon here where you can set up the choices that people can choose for that custom field. So think about if you're collecting data for something specific and you want to report out on it, if the field were free text and the answer was yes or no, some people would put yes, some people would put an N, some people would put a Y, some people might just put a check mark. So the data might not be as clear when you go to report out on it. So what the single select does is it allows you to give the answers that you want to gather for that field. As Michelle mentioned, custom fields can be displayed. Obviously, you would create a custom field and display it. And this is a toggle. You could actually stop displaying it. So if there was something maybe that you wanted to gather for a particular point in time, maybe over a year, you want to gather some information, you could have that custom field display. And then once you're done gathering the information and you've reported on it, you could just turn that custom field off and it won't display anymore. The other feature that we have is being able to take the data that is in the custom field, so the answer to the custom field, if you will, and roll it forward. So if it is a piece of information that you're gathering and it's going to be the same every year, you could turn that recurring rollover button on and the data within that field will roll forward. The other point to make here is because you can turn off custom fields based on the category, if you have custom fields turned on, all of the custom fields will show. If you have custom fields, if they straddle different categories, you're going to want to have them turned on, obviously. But if all of your custom fields only pertain to your tax department, you can go ahead and remove the custom field view from the other category, so that way you don't see them on routing sheets that they don't pertain to. So this is what it would look like when you kind of configure those custom fields. A blank custom field here would mean it's a free-form text field. The one below, obviously, that's that date feature, so you can just click on it, it will give you a calendar. And then we have our single select option. So the box will say search option, and you'll get the pop-up or the drop-down menu that gives you your choices that you can choose for your answer. So again, for those of you who have never used custom fields, it might be something that you want to look into. There's a particular piece of data that you'd like to gather that's not currently being gathered by the default areas in the control sheet. The next quick tip I'd like to point out, and this is a great one for our corporate clients who maybe don't actually deliver things out to an actual client. Many of their work is internal, or maybe a bookkeeping department where you're doing a lot of internal work and maybe not having to deliver things actually or ship things out to your clients. The filing type of none, which does show up in the assembly section, can be set to none. So your choice would be paper, e-file, or none. So if it is set to none for all of the deliverables in a task, you are able to move that task from any status to complete. Once you do that and you hit save and move, it will automatically fill in the shipping section with the pertinent information needed to close the task, and you don't have to fill in that shipping area. You can do this, as I said, on a task-by-task basis by setting the filing method to none within the task, or if you have a specific task type that never has a filing, so a none filing, you can set it at the task type level. That way, when you create a task, it will automatically populate the filing method of none. So you have the option of doing it for all of the task type or just on a task-by-task basis. And again, just one more feature that allows for less clicks and quicker movement throughout XCM. We are also featuring 2 new delivery methods. The 2 new delivery methods that we've added in the shipping section, and they can also be set as a firm default, is certified mail and e-delivery. And before you all start putting a question in, I know the big question out there right now, we've gotten a request from a lot of firms to have safe send as an option. I understand that's a e-delivery type situation that people are using within firms, which is great. It is an enhancement. It's out there and being looked at as feasibility as adding it as a delivery method. But currently we don't have it. So the option would be for those of you who do use Safe Send and want to be able to track the clients that use it and report on it, is to use the e-delivery method here in the requested delivery method, or actual, wherever you need to put it to clarify that you're using it. You could then put a task shipping instruction that it was sent via SafeSend, or you can put a comment in the comment box here on the right-hand side. When you do that, there is a report called Combined Assembly and Shipping Instructions, which you can report out on, and the field of the comments and the shipping instructions are available, so you would be able to see exactly what clients are using, you're using that SafeSend process for. So while we don't have the actual option to choose SafeSend right now, this is a great alternative for those of you who want to track that. Our next quick tip is the e-file section autofill. While best practice is to move through the e-file steps one step at a time, when you get the consent form, put in your date, which moves it to e-file to be transmitted. When you get the e-file, you get transmit and you put the date in, moves it to e-file awaiting government acceptance, which keeps it in nice clean buckets for people to be able to know exactly where a task is through the e-file process. Now, we also understand, we've all been there, the end of, we're getting close to that deadline, and 100 people have sent in their consent form, and maybe you just don't have time, you just need to get those filed, and you want to update those dates sort of in bulk. You can, any date to the right of the consent form date, if you fill it in, will automatically fill everything over to the left. So if you get the consent form and you e-file it on the same day, rather than having to put that date and that date in at the same time, fill in this date and it will automatically fill in the consent form date for you. Or if you're trying to do cleanup from last year, you just didn't get around to it, and you don't mind that the dates are all the same, you can fill in the accepted on date. It will then populate that everything to the left with the same date and fill in the person who e-filed it at the same time. So just a nice way to be able to maybe skip a step if you're the person who does the consent form and e-file at the same time, do those 2 steps at the same time, and then you're saving yourself some clicks there as we will. Next, we're going to talk about some quick tips in the enhancement section, which then does bring up our next polling question. Let me grab that up for you and launch that. So what we'd like to talk about is, how often does your firm, with all the security that we have going on, with all of us working from home and just, everyday cyber threats, does your firm require that you change your password in XCM? Okay, give it another second here. Everybody's still voting. Looks like we've got everybody. Oh, a couple more coming in. I'm glad to see everybody's taking these polling questions. I don't know if you're all looking for the CPU or you're just like playing along, but we appreciate that. It does make virtual meetings a little more interactive. We appreciate that. Okay, looks like everybody's gotten their information in. And now I have learned how to share it, so I'm going to share that information with you. So as you can see, it's kind of across the board. 50% of people don't ever have to change it, so that's great for you. But for those people who do have to reset those passwords, in our old utility, it was a bit of a challenge. So now that we've updated the manage user utility, it does make it a little easier. So in the past, if we have the people online that are responsible for having to make people change their password, you used to have to go into every individual user and click off must change password. So the next time they logged in, they got prompted to change that password. And that can be very tedious if you have, hundreds of users. So with our new utility, if you need to, in bulk, get everybody to change their password, I'm sort of going on the second point here. For current users, all you need to do is go in to the Manage User Utility list, check off everyone that you want to change their password, use that little box next to their name, and you'll get these so you'll get 4 power buttons. But with this one, if you click on Must Change Password, that will give that notification out to everyone the next time they log in that they'll have to update their password. So one thing you had to do one by one, very time consuming, you can now do in bulk. Talk about saving some clicks there, where that's really a big game changer there. The other option we have now is, when you create a new client now a new user using the Manage User Utility as it stands today, when you put in their information and you put in their valid email address, they automatically get a welcome email that gives them a temporary password and instructions on how to log into XCM. In the past, you had to put a temporary password in, you had to send them an email and say, here's your temporary password, do this, do that. We've now made it automated so we can do it for you. However, if you're getting ahead of the game, maybe you've got 50 new people join you because you merged with another company. You want to get them all into XCM before they even start on that particular day. Well, they don't have access to their email yet, possibly. So you may do that. Maybe when they boot up their email, they get the email, but maybe they don't. And they say, I don't know how to get into XCM. I haven't received any information about it. You can come in here and again, click the box next to the user and click resend welcome email. So they'll get that and then they can go ahead and log in. And I'm sure it's popped up in the questions. I'm trying to anticipate these questions. In the past, you were able to go in on a one-off basis and reset someone's password for them if you needed to. That is not currently available in the layout of the Manage User Utility as it stands now, but that option is coming back. It's in the final stages and will be coming out shortly. So if you liked that feature where you could do it on a one-off basis, stay tuned, watch those pop-up notifications. It is coming back. Next, I'd like to talk about the Create Deliverable utility and specifically creating deliverables, firm-specific deliverables, and making them a default deliverable. I'm sure those of you who are dealing with due dates for COVID are very familiar with the Create Deliverables utility and having to manage your firm-specific deliverables with all these changes that we've gone through. But what I'd like to point out is we've had many requests where firms say, I created a firm-specific task type to track things that I want to track, and I've created a firm-specific deliverable. I want that to just be there when I create a task. So in the past, what used to happen when you created a firm-specific task type, you would get this general deliverable. And the point of that was sort of a federal placeholder, if you will, or because they were firm-specific task types, we thought maybe you'd want to just manipulate that general here and there to put in the information you want. But many of you create the firm-specific task type and then create deliverables that you want to apply to that task type. So now, when you create a firm-specific task type and you don't link it to a standard task type or make it dependent upon, and you create a new deliverable, if you want that deliverable to be applied automatically when you create a task, you simply click on the default deliverable and you check it off. And when you do that, you'll see in the second screenshot here, when you create a task, it will apply that firm-specific deliverable for you, gets rid of the general, so you don't have to deal with it. And I hope that this is a big enhancement. Just even the fact that if the general didn't really bother you, that's fine, but you don't have to physically go in and apply that deliverable every time you create a firm-specific task type if you have the default set. One caveat here is if you have deliverables already set up, you can't change them to be the default deliverable currently. You will have to stop using that deliverable, create a new one, and make it a default. So just keep that in mind. Our next quick tip is manage custom checklists. In the past, if you've ever had to change a checklist across the board and wanted it to apply immediately, you had to go into every task and hit update or update default checklist, which if you can imagine hundreds of tasks that you wanted to do this on, it was very time consuming, or you had to make sure that your staff was doing it. If you made a change, you'd have to tell them, listen, when you open that task, make sure you hit that default button. It was just very time consuming. And again, a million clicks. Now you have the ability to update, make additions to, or delete checklist items, and then apply them out to active tasks. We have that button available for you. Similar to being able to apply out changes in sign-offs. One thing to keep in mind, if you make a typing change or a change in the name of the checklist or addition, and you hit apply out to active tasks, those will apply out, without an issue. If you have a deletion and you apply it out to active tasks, if the deleted checklist was already used in an active task, signed off, finished, assigned, whatever, that deleted one will stay there for that active task. However, when the task rolls over, it will be deleted. So we don't want to delete anything that is already being used just for history purposes. But you can do it in midstream, and as I said, when you roll it over, it will remove it when the rollover happens. Okay. The next, this is an enhancement that we'd like to introduce, and you probably have gotten the product notification. If you haven't, or you didn't understand fully what the ramifications of this is, we'd like to talk about the category enhancements. We keep talking about categories and how you can remove things for certain categories or add things for certain categories. When we talk about categories, we had a standard set of categories in XCM for tax, financial, bookkeeping, and other. As XCM has grown, our market has changed. We have not only corporate clients and CPA clients, and we have many different types of firms that are using XCM. So we want them to be able to customize their look and their feel for what works best for them. So you do have the ability now to rename the standard ones if you choose. Maybe you don't call it bookkeeping and you call it client accounting services or CAS or something. You can rename it. You also have the ability to add 16 additional categories. So for a total of 20 categories in your site now. These changes are done by XCM in the background for you. So you do need to send an email to support@xcmsolutions.com. Ask to have your consultant contact you about whatever it is you want to do. Renaming a standard, adding additionals, just questions about what you want to do with it, anything like that. Just let us know that that's what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll be more than happy to have your consultant reach out to you and help you through the process. Now, a couple of things I want to point out here is this is great if you're trying to get other departments in your firm to use XCM for tracking things that have to be, really kept up to date. I think of HR departments or IT departments. They have things that they have to keep track of. They have due dates. They have things they have to follow, tasks that need to be made sure they get done. You can now add those as new categories here and allow them to, really get your money's worth out of XCM. Keep everything where it needs to be. Everybody can use it. In this time and place that we are at right now where everyone is working from home, imagine if you don't have these things set up, and I can't imagine your HR department having to bring their whole filing cabinet home to make sure they get all their work done. By having their tasks in XCM, they're able to continue their work without interruption. The one thing I will point out right now is the only restriction currently is if you're using, say, the other category right now for things like your HR department or your IT department, or you have a whole bunch of things going on in that other category, the task types that are in a category now cannot be distributed out to these new categories that you might create. What these, the new creations are really for is to start using them for new departments. In the future, we may have the ability to break those out, but the caveat right now is that you can't break them out currently, okay? So if you've been thinking about bringing new departments in, please bring them in, open the door, let them come and play. They will enjoy XCM as much as you do. Couple of enhancements that we've made in the reports department. Our due date summary report. When you run a due date summary report prior to this, you picked due dates and things of that nature, but you could only pick one user in a particular role or pick one user in the who has filter. Now you have the ability to run this report. I know we all have the due date summary distributable format, which gives you a tab for every single user, where this choice would be helpful if you're an admin or you're someone who oversees a couple of different people. You run their due date reports and you want to run them at the same time, but just for those 2 people or 3 people. You now have the ability to choose multiple selections in the role filters and the who has task filters. So that's a nice little enhancement there. The next is in the task detail reports. We have the detailed report, which if you use it, is a very large report. It has probably somewhere up to 68, 70 fields that can come out in the Excel format. And depending on the size of your firm, it can be very lengthy and very time consuming to run. I mean, as quickly as we do things in XCM, some things do take time. You have to process the data. So the change that we've made to this report is that all custom fields will now be reportable using the detailed report. But a new enhanced report that we've added called the Detail Expanded Report has all of the information that the detailed report has. What it does is it's producing information every 30 minutes. So if you're trying to do a large data project and you're not really concerned about exact real time, so you're not using this as a due date report or something that's very timely, but maybe you want to look at everyone's budgets, or you want to look at all your staffing on active tasks, or anything. Maybe you want to look at a custom field, and you're not concerned if it's not that up to that very second. This expanded report will produce the results right out to Excel, so you don't have to wait for the preview and then export it out to Excel. You have the ability to just export it directly to Excel, so it's really great for large data projects. This expanded report also captures up to the first 20 staffing roles. So if you use things up beyond the first 9 staffing roles and you have additional roles and you want to export that out and look at those and look at budgets for that, you'll be able to do that with this expanded report. And I'm going to show you this in our live site so you can see how much time you save. The last enhancement that we've made is to the sign-offs and sign-off by date reports. Now that you have the ability to add more categories, we've given you the ability to run these compliance reports for sign-offs for up to 4 categories. So imagine you've got your peer review coming and they're looking at tax and they're looking at audit and they're looking at CAS and bookkeeping, and you need to give them the sign-offs for all of those departments. You can now run one list with all 4 of those categories. So again, just a time-saving piece. Rather than having to run 4, combine them all together, you are able to do that in one nice combined report. So with that, we are going to go into the live site. And I just want to point out what the looks and feels of all these different things are. So, you know, it's great to see a screenshot, but I think sometimes it's nice to see it in action. So the first thing I'm going to show you is this user, the web admin in this test site. They're set up in the Manage User utility in their user preferences. So as Michelle Beamer pointed out, you have the ability to pin up to 7 views on your My View page. So you can put those here. And then you have an option to select the view that you would like your XCM to open up to when you log in. I know many of you said My Task, that's great. But there are a lot of admin out there that don't actually get tasks assigned to them. They just work out of the admin task or the e-file view. So those are more important to them, and they want those to be the first thing they see in the morning. And then here is that default category selection. You have the ability to choose the different categories that you want. And I've currently added the other category for this user, where the firm has all categories set. I'm just going to example this one only uses the other category. So by making all of those changes and going to the My View page, so I just imagine I just logged in, and here's my admin tasks. They're right where I need them, can do whatever I need to deal with. But then I also have my tasks, my extensions, and my checklist available that are also pinned, and the others that I can select here as well. So again, just one less click you got to do when you get in the morning. Put you right where you want to play. So if we go to the My Task area here, I wanted to show you in real time all of those changes that we make in that preferences and to the routing sheet and how it really looks, you know, in the live site. So as I pointed out, we chose the other category for this user, but you can see we have many different tasks from different categories assigned to the user. The only thing a default category does for you is it drives the quick search, which we know works off the advanced search options. So when I look at the advanced search, my task category is other. I don't have to come in here and make that selection. I can change it anytime I want, but it's pre-programmed for me. Think of this as a great option for, again, those HR and tax IT departments, which are very, you know, separated, and you want them to not have to make those selections. They've just put it readily available for you there. It also does pre-populate in some of our report sections. Oops, not that one. Sorry, that one doesn't have a location. In the detail report, it's mostly in these task detail reports. You can see here that other is already selected for me. So that's where that change comes into play. The other thing I'd like to show you is the hidden pieces of the routing sheet. As Michelle mentioned, if you hide pieces of the routing sheet, what we've done is we've just cleaned up the amount of data that you're seeing here on the grid. So caveat is if you don't use points for anything, you're probably not going to have this grid showing, so it doesn't matter. But if the columns are selected to show in your grid for the My View or the search screen, and you have sections that are hidden, you can see here in the tax department, we're using all of the sections. So we have data in all of these. Where in the other category, we used to have here, if you weren't using it, it would just say 0, 0. Well, that's just another, you know, does 0, 0 mean I had 0 and I have nothing to deal with this one? Or it was a little bit confusing and just more things to look at. What this does is it cleans up what hyperlinks you have available for you by cleaning out those fields that are not being used in the routing sheet. And again, as Michelle showed in that screenshot, task information, if I check off a bookkeeping, I only have 5 things to choose from that I can do based on the things that I've suppressed in my control sheet. However, if I go to a task, I have 8 things that I can do from here. So again, it just makes it a lot cleaner for the person who is working in their My View, if you're doing it at a firm level, to remove things that aren't available. Just like we purposely started graying out things that you can't do if you're crossing categories. So here, I can add a point, but I can't move it. I can't do any task information, and I can't create extensions. So by removing things that aren't available, it makes it much clearer to the user what it is they can do. Next, I'm going to show you just a live version of the toggle replace and add feature for task instructions. So if I go into the shipping section for this user, sorry, for this task, you can see I have some instructions in here. We have a special instruction and then a mailing instruction. So if there's a couple people that deal with this client, maybe the client gave somebody information about how they wanted it shipped. And then the next person, they say, oh, you know what, I said UPS, but I really want it to go FedEx. So you can do one of two things. You can replace it or you can append it. So if you want to keep track of what the client said before and now what the client's saying now, you can append it. You can click on the shipping instructions. If you want to append it, client changed mind, send FedEx. Instead of replacing, I'm going to append it. So what it does is it moves my original comment down, and then it just adds the addition to that, okay? If I want to replace, just as simple, click in. If I want to replace all my mail to, send to main. And I want to replace that very easily. It clears out all the other things and it just replaces it. So it's just very easy to see what you're doing, what you're updating, and what you're replacing. So just wanted to point that out to see how it actually works while you're doing it live. The next thing I want to show you is the expanded report. I just want to show you how quickly the difference is between the detailed and the expanded. Now understand, I don't have lines and lines and thousands of things to report on, but I think you will see the difference. So I'm going to put my category to all here, and I'm going to put my years to all. So I'm pulling as much data as possible, and I'm going to click run for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to get my preview, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, before I get my report, okay? 21. Maybe a little faster than a second would count, but you get the point. We do the exact same thing in the expanded. So change my filter, so we're doing apples to apples. Again, this data is going to be 30 minutes prior to running this report. I export directly to Excel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you could almost cut this in half. So if you have a report that usually takes you 5 minutes, imagine only having to wait 2.5 minutes. So I think that this is just, again, if you're looking for big data projects, keep in mind, go ahead and use that expanded report. Okay, so we have about 6 minutes left. I know that doesn't sound like very much, but we are going to jump back to our questions. And Amy, if you could please assist us in sharing some of the questions, Michelle and I will jump and answer them. If we don't get to your question, we will reach out to you later with an answer.
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. So we do have one question that came in, and this was when you were talking about the control sheet preferences. They would like to see where the user preference, so where that utility is, where they can make those changes.
Okay, so I actually think I just showed that, but I'll go real quick there. So the preferences for the user are in the Manage User utility, Choose Your User, and it's under User Preferences. And when I click on that, the section comes right up here for me. Next.
Sure, yep, we have another one. This was when you were talking about the shipping and assembly section, and the same with DocuSign. So you had the safe send where you can write it in the comments, and they're asking if they can do this DocuSign the same way, and the answer I would say would be yes.
Absolutely. Anything, anything that's an e-delivery that falls under that category, just make a note and put whatever it is. And then, as I said, the report you want to run is the combined assembly and shipping report. And what that does is it gives you all the information from those two sections. So if you have a comment and it says, DocuSign, make it very simple. So when you're sorting, DocuSign, safe send, and you'll be able to report out on that super easy.
Great. Another one that came in when you were talking about passwords, will you be required to factor authentication soon?
Say that one more time.
Will you be required to factor authentication soon in the passwords?
Okay, so I apologize. That is out of my technical range, but we will get that answer for you and get back to you. So I apologize. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we'll get an answer for you.
Then we have two more. If you apply to all active tasks in the checklist, will it write over the checklist items that have already been completed?
Nope. So as I mentioned, if you are making a change or a deletion, if the checklist is already active in the task, so if you've assigned it to someone or it's already been closed out, it will not change it for that active task. When the task rolls over, the change will be applied. So we won't remove any history in regards to that. Just like a sign off. If you signed off on a task with a sign off and you remove that sign off, when you apply those to active tasks, that original sign off will stay there until the next time. So no, we don't like to remove history, not our gig. So
perfect. This one is in regards to the e-filing. So they're asking the question, when you enter the acceptance date, the status will stay in the e-file awaiting government acceptance. Do you see this being fixed anytime soon?
Okay, so the reason that happens, and I am assuming you're saying, so hold on, whoops. I'm assuming you're saying when you put in the date it was accepted, it still says that it's in the status of e-file awaiting government acceptance. And the reason for that is there are some times when you are making that entry and you're doing it just for one deliverable for that task. So then at that point, you have the ability to take the task and move it maybe back to preparation because you have other deliverables that have to be done. So we won't automatically move it to completed just because you entered those dates. So I don't see that being something that we're going to change, but if it's something that you'd like to articulate and send in as an enhancement, maybe we can figure out a way to do that. So send that to enhancements@xcmsolutions.com. We'll get it thrown up on the list and see what type of consideration we can give that. But it's more for just making sure we're not moving something to completed just because a date got filled in. So it's really sort of precautionary, if you will.
Okay. We do have a couple more, but we are 1 minute left, so let's answer what we can. In the advanced search, are you able to default the select to just are you able to default it to select all years?
Select all years. I don't believe so. So that selection is made in the manage settings and defaults. I don't think. Yeah, so select is not an option, but you can come in here and select as many years as you want. So just hold that control key and keep, making that selection if you like it. Defaulting to all is not an option, but again, it's one of those things you like. Enhancements@xcmsolutions.com.
Okay, and just one more. Where do you turn on the shipping, replace, or amend toggle?
The shipping replace or amend toggle. Oh, caught me.
It's under my view, Michelle. The shipping instructions.
Oh yeah, when you go in there, yeah, it's just on a task by task basis. I don't think you can default it to on. But
no.
I'm not sure about that. So let me check on that. I apologize. Let me check on that one and we'll get back to whoever asked that question as well. If there is a way to set it one way or the other, I will let you know.
Okay, great.
Well, gosh, everybody, thanks so much for joining. This was not as fun as seeing all your faces at the user conference like we usually do, but we hope that these things were helpful and help you get through your day a little bit faster.